Hello, Raw Food Rehabbers. It's Penny. It's July 7th. It's a Tuesday, and we are on the eve of one half of the way through this raw rehab experiment. And so tomorrow is our official halfway point, as best as I can calculate. And so I'm very focused on making this last half of this experiment even stronger than the first half of the experiment. The first half of the experiment, I have had a lot of diversions and a lot of challenges that have all been good, but it's just I can't juggle it all. So as I said in a forum post that I made earlier today, I've really tried to assess where I am and basically just sort of fine-tune what my priorities are and figure that out and move forward in it. And sometimes that's not always easy to do. But that's what I've done. And so what I want to talk to you about today is the power of our thoughts and the power of the words that actually, they start up here and then they get on our tongue and then they pop out. And, you all know I was raised in this Southern Baptist home, and so they used to beat scriptures into my mind in the church, and I often find that those bubble up even now as an adult. And one that came to my mind this morning is that the power of life and death is in our tongues. And I don't think that just means, what we speak. I think it means what we put on our tongues and goes into our body as well. So it's a two-way street, what's going on with our mouths. And I think so often we lose consciousness of the power that our words actually have in our own lives and in what our opinions are of who we are, and in our words, what the power of those are in other people's lives, the seeds that our words plant in other people's minds. And I know I'm guilty of probably not realizing, because sometimes I can be pretty bold in what I'm saying. And so my prayer is that I will become more conscious of what I'm actually speaking out into other people's lives as well as into my own life. But have I talked about this book before? If I haven't, I wanted to make sure and bring it up. It's just this thin little book. It's called Your Life is a Gift, So Make the Most of It. I think I've sort of alluded to this book before. It's by Ken Keyes Jr. He is also the author of the million-copy bestseller Handbook to Higher Consciousness, which sounds kind of woo-woo, but I'm going to read a couple things that I love. And if there's any way that I can scan this cartoon that I'm looking at, I'm going to, and I'm going to put it up because it's so perfect. He's talking about our mind is a computer, okay? Our computer is only as good as what we're putting in it. How are we programming the hard drive of our computer? And he says, if you put a program into your computer and it doesn't work well, you don't become angry at your computer. You just set your mind on acquiring a new program that's going to operate the way that you want it to. If you put a CD in a CD player and what comes out sounds awful to you, you don't get mad at the CD player. You do something about the CD. You buy a new one. And then I liked this. Are you aware of the programs, mental habits, conditionings that you have put in your head, maybe even since before you were born? When something in your life doesn't go the way you want it to, do you blame yourself, your computer, your CD player, or do you blame the unskillful program that you might have picked up sometime in the past? Just remember that you are not your programming. Members of your family are not your programming. Your friends are not their programming. Your enemies are not their programming. Let's focus on helping ourselves change the unskillful programming that slows us down like barnacles on the bottom of a ship. Let's be careful not to blame the ship when it's the barnacles that are causing the problems. Just as we can remove the barnacles, we can do something to change the programming that will give us new responses to regular life situations. So that's just a little tiny sliver of what is in this book, and I love it so much. Because of my childhood, I've done a ridiculous amount of therapy. And I've been on the couch and I've spent thousands of dollars working through issues, and I still haven't arrived yet. But I've learned a couple things, and one of those things is is that if we dwell on the negatives and we get stuck in the negatives and we're thinking about, I'm fat, I'm not worthy to be thin, or maybe, some of this is even unconscious thinking, we're not going to experience success in life. If we are totally focused, if our mind is still in that old pattern of believing those old tapes, that old programming, maybe your mama and your daddy told you that you weren't worth 2 cents, or maybe you had a love affair that went wrong, maybe you were abused, maybe you were, there's so many different things that could have happened to you in your past, and most everybody that's here in Raw Food Rehab has had a significant life experience that has caused you to feel that you're less worthy than maybe the person you were actually created to be. So I think it's really important that we take a stop here midway and we look at what we are actually listening to, what we're believing, what our programming is saying to us. And we have authority over that. I mean, one of my previous forum posts last week was that I'm fighting my fat demons. Well, this is just a little bit more of that same idea of, am I going to keep believing that I'm not worthy? Or am I going to keep thinking I can't go exercise because I'm too fat to get in my exercise clothes? I think it's time that we take a stand and begin to renew the thoughts that we have in our minds. And the best way to do that I can think of, this across the board general, non-Christian, non-New Age talk, is just get a journal and start writing in there what's going on inside of you. Is it really negative? If it's really negative, what's going on with that? And what do you need to do to stop meditating on that and start meditating on the truth of who you really were created to be? Not this person that's disempowered, not this person that's struggling with, so many different things. You hate your job, you're in a dead-end marriage. There's just a list that goes on and on. If we continue to meditate on what's not going right in our lives, we're not ever going to change. We're always going to stay stuck. So I just want to encourage you today to begin to do things and begin to reprogram yourself to believe positive things about yourself that are really true. They're even more true than this other stuff that you've been conditioned to believe. So I'm going to post some other little links down below this so that you can go and check out the book and some other things. But I just want to encourage you today to stop listening to the negativity and stop believing it and start speaking positive things over yourself out of your mouth. Look at yourself in the mirror and begin to tell yourself things that you need to hear. What do you need to hear today? Nobody's going to do it for you. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.